Cam F. Awesome. I can't help but say, but he is awesome. He's 6 times US national champion boxer, 4 times Golden Gloves, excuse me, national champion, 3 times Olympic trial champion. He was captain of the boxing team, the USA national boxing team. Just truly inspirational man. He got into boxing at 18 in New York, and he was overweight and just went to the gym and found it and excelled at it, did really, really well at it. Obviously, he's turned it around since. He had some tragedies fall, some obstacles to climb. He changed his name in 2013, and he came out better. He publicly speaks now to kids, to corporations, to groups about unconscious bias and about diversity and inclusion and um, diversity. Uh, just an incredible story. An incredibly charming man who really knows his desires and his wants. He's vegan. He explains how he talks about how he went in, how and why he went into that. You're gonna love this conversation. An inspiring man. Go see him speak if you can, and find out why he's the Taylor Swift of boxing. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Talk to you. Thanks so much for doing this, Cam. I really appreciate it. So, do you have the same motivation now to do what your advocacy, your speaking, your consulting, the way you speak to kids? Is it the same motivation you have now than you had when you were a world class boxer?
Funny you'd ask that. When I won my first national championship, I was 18, and you have to fill out this questionnaire. Actually, you have to fill it out before your fight, so you don't know if you won yet. So you and your opponent both get to fill out this form, and it's like list your education, like list your height, your weight. What are your best attributes in the ring? I listed, I think, charm as mine. And for goals inside of the ring, I wanted to be a good role model and possibly have my own TV show.
Wow.
Uh, so I only use boxing as an avenue to be able to get me to where I want to go in life.
Interesting. So as a youth, if it wasn't boxing, it would have been just another avenue you would have been great at, you believe.
Uh, no, I saw boxing when I first joined boxing. It was just to lose weight
Right.
and possibly get a date to prom. And I was always looking for a role model. I didn't realize that, but I was always looking for a role model. And when I joined boxing, I realized that I would have to be my own. I would have to be the person that I wanted to look up to. Um,
Hmm.
and I realized I would use boxing as a platform to allow me to be able to do that.
Is part of the attraction of of boxing is that it's not, I guess it's a team sport and overall if you're part of the Olympic team, but it's really yourself out there. If you fail, you fail by yourself. But you do have a coach, you do have a manager. So what attracts you there?
So I'm a little different in the fact that I don't really have a coach.
Mm,
Uh, Throughout my career, I've always coached myself. There's a guy, I call him my coach, John Brown, but he does more of the managing. I do the coaching. So, like, if we have a tournament coming up, I reach out to I book my hotel, I register myself for the tournament, I weigh myself in, I wrap my own hands, I warm
wow.
myself up, and I get a random person who's at the boxing event. And I usually know people there to work my corner. And I win. It's a 1 day elimination tournament. So you fight every day until you lose or you win the tournament. So I show up on Sunday, I register myself, I fight Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and my coach John Brown flies in Saturday. He works my corner for the finals. We take a picture, we high five. He asks me if I need anything. I say no, and I continue to train myself.
Because in the Netflix in the documentary, which was fantastic, it seemed that you had the same person in your corner the whole time.
Oh yeah, he works my corner, but when I go to spar, my base is in Kansas City, but when I go to spar in, let's say, Dallas, I go to spar for 6 weeks before a fight. I'm there by myself,
Interesting.
just sparring somebody with a coach. And their coach is always there to like give me advice or give me water in between rounds and stuff. But yeah, I kind of ran my own career uh, the way I did, and I needed to be disciplined to do that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about discipline. So I play golf now, and so I guess you're talking the difference between a manager and a coach would be the difference between a swing coach and a caddy, right?
Oh yes, yes. I'm Let me think that one over because I'm not too familiar with golf, but
In golf, yeah, they have a caddy as
yeah,
they play. They're not the coach at all. They're not giving swing instruction. They're just which club do you want to use? They're giving distance. They're giving wind. They're giving these kinds of things. Then
yeah,
so that's very interesting. I never made that analogy.
yeah. I like that one.
Hmm.
I like that.
If you could change one rule about boxing, what would it be?
I would for Olympic level boxing,
Okay,
I would I would allow entertainment.
explain.
I think boxing is a sport and it's supposed to be entertaining. I like so I used to wear like pink. I used to fight in like a pink skirt, and then they changed the rules to where you only could wear red or blue.
Uh,
And why? Why can't I just have fun and wear whatever I want? Then they said, then I also own more capes than I want to admit. And I would enter the ring like I'm a superhero, and then I would do a front flip into the ring with my
that's
cape
right.
on.
I've seen that. Yeah.
When I would do that, a lot of times the ref would grab me by the hand, walk me back out the ropes, and I would have to leave and come back in the ring.
Wow.
And then they also changed the rule to no extra apparel in the ring. They were just trying to get me to stop my cape. They were trying to stop me from having fun.
Hmm. Hmm.
But,
Very interesting. And then the documentary really sheds light on just kind of the youth movement, how kids are coming up and the gyms run out of money and there was many gyms. And I hope that's all getting better. I don't know much about youth boxing.
there's well, bless all of these coaches because
Mm,
a lot of these coaches were kids who grew up in the inner city, got to go to a free inner city boxing gym. They became boxers themselves, and then they stayed in the gym, and they're now
see,
coaches.
I see.
So a lot of those coaches went through the same system, and they didn't pay for a coach when they were a kid, and a lot of these coaches coach for free. They volunteer their time,
Mm.
and then on top of that, you have travel. So it's a lot of expenses on the coaches, and a lot of these gyms don't have the greatest funding.
Huh. So
If we had funding, we would be unstoppable
really,
because other countries they have funding. So like our boxers, when they turn 18, it's like Do you want to fight for Team USA and only make $1,000 a month, like next to nothing? Or do you want to sign a professional contract and maybe make millions of dollars? When you have an 18-year-old with a kid on the way or they're living in their parents' house, they're going to sign that contract. And so you have our 18-year-old Olympians fighting other countries. Let's say England, they have great funding, so some of their boxers stick around for 2 or 3 Olympics. So you have our 18-year-olds fighting experienced 32-year-olds, and we're still competing with them. So imagine if we had great funding and we had like Shakur Stevenson, who won a silver medal in the last Olympics, in 2016 Olympics. If he had great funding and there was no reason for him to turn pro, he would have fought in the 2020 Olympics and he was guaranteed a gold medal. But we don't lack talent, we lack experience. But USA's they did so great at this last Olympics.
Yeah, they certainly did. Is there NCAA basketball? Excuse me. Is there NCAA boxing? Is there college level boxing?
Yeah, there is. There's a collegiate boxing league. I believe you have to have under 10 fights. Just they do it that way just so it remains competitive. I know Notre Dame is one of the my buddy. He fought for the Notre Dame team.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
that's a good sign because colleges have money and their sports. Has that always been that way?
yeah, but they're kind of like in a bubble. So
Oh,
uh, they only fight guys who are also in collegiate boxing. So it's just like a little league. So they don't ever. There's one guy who was real good. He I actually fought him, and his name escapes me. He's from Vegas, but I think he also fought for Notre Dame. And yeah, he fought in the Olympic trials. He qualified all the way to Olympic trials. He lost in the trials. I think that's where I fought him. But he was a great boxer.
so it sounds more like at a club level, not really at the NCAA level.
Yeah, the NCAA level is the club level.
I see. And what? So what's the problem with boxing? Why don't people want to put money into it? It's a noble sport.
Uh,
It's the sweet science.
do you want to put your kid in a boxing ring?
Right. Right.
But here's the thing: you would put your kid on a football field
Yeah.
because you have that tradition with football. Also, you have parents who've gone to colleges who want their kids to go to that college as well. So it's like a
Mhm.
tradition thing. And you get scholarships through football,
Right.
but you don't get those things through boxing as much. It's not in the school system, it's not a part of our culture.
And how can we make boxing more safe?
Oh, it's not about it being safe. Safer than football, I
Mm.
believe. Uh, but I'm not a doctor. So,
Have you been
uh,
concussed?
oh, I know for one time I was for sure concussed. Concussed was my last roller hockey game.
Really?
I played in like a weekly, like a Tuesday roller hockey league at like 6 p.m. Uh, and I can't even say that someone checked me or something. I slammed into the wall trying to do a trick.
Wow.
Uh, I yeah, I tried to do like one of those hard stops,
Sure. When you
and
cut.
I just baseball slid into the wall. Yeah, and I woke up like a day and a half later. Like I apparently drove myself home.
Wow.
I was heading to the gym, and I was just like, I don't remember getting ready for the gym.
Hmm.
I don't remember eating today. I don't remember waking up this morning. Then I put it together when I found out my skates, all but one wheel was still connected.
Oh my
They're like
goodness.
shattered. Yeah,
I
but
coach.
so yeah, I'm sure I was concussed.
How about during boxing?
I was never went under any concussion protocols or anything in my entire
Mm.
career. But then I hear, yeah, then I hear the small. It's not the big concussions; it's the small
Right.
impact. And I'm like, there's a lot of that in boxing, but I wouldn't. If you were to live so safely, you wouldn't drive a car either.
Mm.
And so I think some things are worth the risk. And if it's not worth it to you, don't do it.
Calculate it. Yeah. So eh, I need to understand the transition. So you're in high school, you're an 18 and you're overweight, so you want to do boxing, but boxing requires so much discipline and so much
Yeah.
focus. So where was that manifested before then? You must have had it.
No, I never made a sport before. What I did realize is I had the fear of physical consequence.
Ah,
So I knew, and I realized it was a cheat code. So I fought at super heavyweight, but I'm 6'2". I was a smaller guy. I'm fighting guys who are 6'8" sometimes.
wow.
I could have just lost a pound and fought at a different weight
That's
class.
right.
But I fought bigger guys because I realized that bigger guys weren't disciplined.
Hmm.
They thought they could knock everyone out, so they're never in shape. So I realized if I was being smaller, if I was disciplined enough to be in better shape than all of my opponents, I don't even need to be a good fighter. I don't knock anyone out. I'm an awkward fighter if you've seen any videos. My goal is just to get the other guy tired and outpoint
Mm.
him. And through that, I found different ways of winning. But the idea is, if I'm in better shape than you, as soon as the bell rings, I think, okay, let's check our gas tanks.
Hmm.
Because for me to be able to push this guy to the point where he's tired, I have to be able to expend myself. So I have to be in shape myself. And that is literally my only game plan in a fight,
Wow.
is to be in better shape. So discipline, and I realized, if I just, because guys say like, oh yeah, I went running this morning, and I know they didn't go run. Like, guys skip days.
Hmm.
Since I was in high school, I would wake up at about 4 in the morning and do a 3.3 mile run around my neighborhood.
Wow.
And I would have to wake up so early because my bus came at about 6:15, and I would need to give myself time to stop sweating because it's still hot in the morning. Uh, and I would go to school, and after school, I didn't have a car or I can get a ride. So I would walk 6.3 miles every day to the boxing gym
Wow.
before I would work out.
Wow.
And now I think it's crazy, but at the time, like, because it would take me literally 3 hours every day after school. Because my senior year in high school, my parents moved to Florida, so, and I didn't want to stop boxing, and the only
Hmm.
way I could box is if I walked 6 miles to the gym every day. But I made myself a promise when I started boxing that I was going to be number one. And sometimes things come up that's like a real big inconvenience to your plan, and you can't really make that the reason why you stop your overall plan. You have to just deal with that inconvenience. And the inconvenience I had to deal with was walking 6 miles before I get to the boxing gym.
Wow. Wow, it's amazing that you put those obstacles in front of you purposely to make you stronger. It's amazing. I mean, you could have. Are there buses where you just didn't want to? You wanted to walk as all part of the routine.
It was, so if I took the bus back to my house, it would be a 13-mile walk.
Oh wow, right? Because it's in
So
between.
it was, yeah.
Wow.
And luckily, there's a guy, Jose Marquez, who knew that I walked, and he said, if you ever walk to the gym, I will drop you home.
Hmm.
And he would go out of his way. It was like probably a 40-minute drive to drop me home.
Wow.
Uh, and he did that every day for a year. Never complained. Also, I didn't have any money because I was in high school and never asked of anything from me.
Absolutely amazing. Just a
I'm the product of a lot of help from a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we all are. Yeah, and when you look back and you have to be thankful for that. It's amazing. So, if just one more or two more on boxing, and I want to get more to you. If you were completely in charge of boxing right now, what would you do with it?
Uh, I would I would try to make a I would try to make a league where you have to qualify to get into, like, maybe like a junior pro ranks where guys with less experience can make some money, and like journeymen can make some money. I just feel like there's 99% of the money in boxing goes to like 1% of the boxers.
Right.
And there are just so many guys at the bottom who dedicate their life to this sport,
Mm,
and they'll never be known or get any recognition. And I think if they don't get that, at least they can make a little bit of money, because a lot of them, they do this to feed their family. So I would try to find a way to make money more accessible to the lower class fighters.
spread it out, and I believe the problem is that there's so many different kind of leagues, or right, and there's different bodies that are in charge of them, and they're all, of course, money driven, and it gets confusing as an outside viewer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And there's unlike the MMA, there's like no real governing body.
Right.
Everyone there's so many different organizations. Each organization has a belt. There's just so many belts. There's like there's the IBJ
Mm,
under 25 Midwest championship belt. And that just but maybe that's the way if those belts meant something. Maybe people who won those belts can make some more money, but I don't know. You know what I learned? Every time I start to think about a problem, I realize how complicated it is and
right.
how little I know about anything.
Yeah. It's daunting. It is daunting. Yeah, you think there's such a simple solution, but generally speaking, money ruins a lot of that stuff, right? It's everybody's driven by that. So Cam, why are you the Taylor Swift of boxing?
uh, so this is something about being disciplined. Uh, I used to be considered Kanye West. Like I used to throw fits. If I lost, I would lose my mind. And I realized if I want to be the role model that I wanted, I have to change things about myself.
Hmm.
And my very goal in the beginning was to be a good role model and get my own TV show. I think I could have I had a podcast, so I think I filled the mission. But uh, my goal is to be a good role model, and acting out because I was very passionate. I would kick garbage cans. I used to get upset when I lost, and I decided to change that about myself when I changed my name. And I was going to be a positive person, and I was going to find a way to be positive no matter what I did in life. And I was in the Pan Am Games, and I fought my heart out, and I beat like the top guy, and I didn't get the decision. And I was so heartbroken and upset. And like and I realized at the moment I was like, okay, show my best self.
Mm.
Uh, I like to think as channel my inner Beyonce. I would handle it how she'll handle it. Because anytime I'm faced with a situation like, how should I handle this? I think, how would Beyonce handle this? And I just like waved to the crowd and like thanked everyone. And I like took a beeline through the fan tunnel and to the because you go to the fan tunnel and then after the fan tunnel is the media station and then there's a locker room. Uh, what people don't realize is when you're going through the fan tunnel, it's really awkward when you lose because no one wants to high five you. So just like
Mm.
people looking at you like you're a loser. And that could be partly my insecurities. And as I'm walking through, like I fought a guy from Cuba and we're in Toronto, Canada. And there are just so many Cuban people that are like waving their flags. And I'm walking through the fan tunnel and they're just like might be 100 Cubans are waving their flags, and one of the flags slapped me in the face. And I'm like, you know what? If another flag hits me, I'm going to fight my second Cuban person today. And then another flag hits me, and then at that point, it was the closest I ever went back to turning back into Kanye
Wow.
because I got so upset, and I was like, nope, nope, let's just turn around. And when I turned around, Tony Collins from ESPN put a microphone on my face. I know who ESPN is. I know who Tony Collins is. And they don't usually speak to me. So like I thought it was like a big deal.
Mm.
And I was conflicted because I was like, great opportunity, but I'm still so upset.
Mm.
And you always have I had three choices. Choice one, I could just take the microphone and share how I really felt about the judges and the whole boxing system and how the corruption.
Mm.
Uh, I could decline the interview. Unfortunately, I'm not declining the interview from ESPN famous. I
Right.
want to be on ESPN.
Right.
So the opportunity to just try to showcase my humor in the best way possible. Uh, and what I do when I'm upset now is I just try to I try to answer interview questions, uh, but I make it a me thing. I have jokes in my head. I have these inner conversations, and sometimes some of it comes out. And Taylor Swift of boxing, I still to this day don't really know what it means, but I was just trying to keep myself happy in that moment of sadness.
Good for you. Yeah, turn the other cheek. I mentioned I play golf, and a couple weeks ago, playing with a young man, and he wasn't playing well, and he ends up throwing clubs, and he's swearing up a storm, and he's just overall tantrum. So I said, Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. I know you don't know who these are because you're a young man, but Mickey
Oh, no,
Mantle,
no, I know.
you
I've
do,
been
yeah.
compared to both.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I was talking to this young man who was throwing the clubs, and he didn't know who they were. But
No.
Mickey Mantle was on his way out, and Roger Maris, struck out, and he comes into the dugout. He's kicking everything. He's swearing, and he says, "Mickey, I don't know how to hit a home run. I don't know how to hit the ball. Help me!" And he's shouting, and of course, Mickey Mantle says, Roger, before you learn how to hit a home run, you have to learn how to strike out. So he kind of paused for a moment and stopped throwing clubs afterwards. So I think it's, you just have to, it just comes kind of with maturity. And I think you just kind of taught yourself there. Now, how did Joe Rogan inspire you?
Oh, I feel like so the whole discipline thing, I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call it discipline. I mean, I would call it keeping it real.
Mm,
And when someone calls me out, like so when someone calls any of us out, we have a few options. One, we can blame the other person, we can ignore it, or we can ask ourselves why that stings so bad. And I was like living in my van, speaking at schools, talking about like resilience and my boxing career.
mm,
And I'm listening to Joe Rogan podcast with like Roy Woods Jr.
yes.
And Joe Rogan was like, most motivational speakers just talk about things they used to do and they aren't capable of doing, or something like that. And I didn't listen, and it bothered me. And I decided not to ignore it, and I decided not to blame him, but I decided to question myself like, am I not pushing myself? Am I being lazy? Am I not being as disciplined as I should be? Because I
Mm,
was living in a van. I wasn't working out as much as I should have. When you live in a van, you tend to gain weight. Uh, and yeah, after a couple years living in a van, you tend to gain weight. And I was like, I realized I'm an overweight like youth speaker at the time, and I was like, I'm not happy with this. So I decided to revamp my life and make a run for the 2020 Olympics. So I couldn't do it for Team USA. If I did, they would make me move out of my van and live in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center.
right.
And I'm building a business. I couldn't afford to do that. So I decided to, I decided to go to Trinidad and Tobago, my dad's home country, and become a dual citizen and fight in their Olympic trials. So I began living in the van, speaking at schools during the week, doing stand up at night,
Incredible.
emceeing festivals on the weekend, and while training for the Olympics. And I flew to Trinidad. I won their Olympic trials by KO, came back to the States, continued training. And I was in Dallas, living in my van, training when I got the news that the NBA was canceled. And I was like, okay, I guess COVID's real. And turned out it was, because they canceled the Olympics. They didn't cancel it. They
Postpone.
said, and the qualifying tournament, they canceled that. So they said, you know what, instead of going by the qualifying tournament where I would qualify at, they said, let's go by ranking points. And since I was new to Trinidad, I had no ranking points with them. So I didn't get to go to the
Mm.
Olympics.
Do you consider yourself disciplined?
I consider myself more disciplined than most, but not disciplined enough.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that assessment too. There's so many things I am disciplined, but there's so much more room for improvement, I feel.
Yeah, I think about like, oh, I'm so disciplined when it comes to work and
Mm.
following up with emails
Mhm.
and my health, eating, and then I speak to a friend and they're like, oh, I meditate for an hour a day. And I'm
Right.
like, I have an hour a day to meditate. I can find an hour a day to
Mm.
meditate.
You know?
but am I disciplined enough to sit there and do that? I I I would need to be I need to work on that because I need to be disciplined enough to be able to get my mind off of like, I wonder if someone sent me an email, I should email people back. Like
Right.
yeah. I took all of the passion I had in boxing and I put it into my speaking career. And yeah, and I realized that it's, some would call it discipline, some would call it obsessive, uh, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, that shows, Cam. That shows. I get a lot of pushback from, as you know, I was very heavy. I got heavy,
Yeah,
kind of like yourself, and I lost it, and some other tragedies. And so, people ask how you deal with it. I just said discipline, which is another word for focus and determination. But I often talk to people, and they say, "Well, you need compassion, not discipline." And I said, "Well, I agree. I don't think everybody should have discipline. There should be some, maybe some self-discipline, but perhaps not the most governing in your world." But I do get a decent amount of pushback, and I don't, and I like it because I just like bringing out the conversation.
yeah. Oh, you think people need compassion and not discipline?
That's what I hear a lot. Do I
Oh,
think it? Yeah, yeah.
I think discipline is compassion.
That's what I say. It's exactly what I
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
because let's say we talk about eating healthy, and I say I'm very disciplined with my lifestyle. I don't even call it diet.
You're
Uh,
vegan?
I vegan. I'm plant based. I try to stay away from processed foods. I I don't drink anything but, I just started juicing, but I usually don't drink anything but water. And I'm leaning on the raw side. But someone's like, "Well, be compassionate about yourself. Why don't you eat some junk food?" And I don't think
Whoa.
that's compassionate. I don't think eating junk is is actually treating yourself well. I'm disciplined to the point where at 7:45, me and my girl, we brush our teeth and then we head to bed
Mm.
because I need to wake up at 4:45 because I realize I can be so productive between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. I get an entire work day done before most people turn on the laptop. Now, I think being compassionate to myself, being disciplined and getting a full 8, 9, I try to get 9 hours of sleep.
Wow.
Like, I think that's being compassionate to myself. But other people would think being compassionate to themselves might be being allowing themselves to stay up and have a drink
Mm.
and watch a movie all night and wake up tired and groggy. It's, how are we, different people value different things. Uh, and I believe to stay true to a lot of my values, it takes discipline.
Well said. Well said, Cam. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. And I love what you're doing now, and you're speaking. I watch, you've got great content there. I want to talk about implicit and unconscious bias. You devote a lot of time to it because it's so important. I I I I know that I fall victim to this. Sometimes, I'll be in a parking lot, for example, and I'll see a woman or maybe a pregnant woman, have a lot of groceries and putting her into her vehicle. And I'll say, "Hey, do you need help?" And then she accepts or doesn't. But then I walk away thinking, I would have never done that for a man. I would have
Yeah.
never have done that. I would just, I have a mother, I have daughters, so that is implicit bias. Would you
Uh,
agree?
yeah, and it could be implicit bias. It can be somewhat culturally, because like my mom instilled in me, like, if I just met you at, like, if we're, I'm the guy who walks people to their car,
Mm.
and my mom always taught me like walk a lady to their car, so that could be more of a cultural thing than just an implicit bias thing. Uh, I do speak a lot on intent versus impact,
Mm.
and what your actions are and how other people interpret them. Now, the person who, the lady who you asked, she might be grateful. She's probably she could be exhausted. Her feet might hurt, and now she's grateful. You just, again, I always say assume positive intent and suspend judgment,
Hmm.
but I I think we're super sensitive now, not sensitive towards other people, but sensitive towards our own feelings
Mm.
when it comes to offending others. Like in my travels, I've been to 30 countries, And one thing I've learned is that everyone interacts with other people differently. And even in our own country. So if you do business with someone in New York, right? New York's more of a
Yes.
fast paced place. So you want to be in and out of their office as fast as possible. That's how you do business respectfully. But if you go to Oklahoma City, right?
Mm,
They're more people of hospitality. They invite you in. Before you know it, you're having sweet tea. You're
mm,
showing pictures of your cats. Like that's how you do business there. But if that person in Oklahoma tried to do business with that person in New York, they would be considered rude,
right.
trying to show pictures of their cat. And so it's more of a cultural interaction. And the question I like to ask is who's right and who's wrong?
Mm,
Because culture just means a way of life. Who can be right? How can anyone be wrong? But I will also say there could be someone who did business in New York for 40 years and now they live in Oklahoma City. So guess what? You're gonna have to you're gonna have to treat different people in different ways. And if we offend someone sometimes, apologize and move on. It is not the end of the world. So I use the term melting pot. Like I said,
mm.
America's a melting pot. And then someone said, actually, Cam,
I love
to
this.
say America's a melting pot is to say that for a culture to be a part of American culture, they would have to melt down, assimilate, and no longer be whole.
Mm.
And it struck me, and I was like, oh, okay. So now I say America's a salad bowl.
Oh, I thought you said bento box.
Oh yeah. So I say a salad. I say it's a salad bowl. And the thing is, I didn't. If I were to just get caught up in the language of, well, I say melting pot. My parents said melting pot. We always
Mm,
say melting pot.
mm.
Why can't I just? I don't need to be committed to the language of using melting pot if the intent doesn't match the impact.
Right.
And the way that melting pot analogy works for me is like I have locks, right? When I started to speak at corporations, of course, I'm very passionate about my business. I want to get as many speaking gigs as possible. I want to get work. I lived in my van to do this. And a lot of people said, Cam, if you want to actually start being taken seriously in the speaking world, you need to cut your hair to be more appealing to a corporate audience.
Wow.
Now, that to me is a melting pot because I would have to
Mm.
assimilate to be able to fit in to be a part of this American culture. Because, as I said, my dad's from Trinidad. My locks are part of my heritage, it's part of my culture. I don't want to have to cut my hair to be able to survive and pay my bills in America. So I do believe we should be a salad bowl.
Very
But
interesting.
even though we're a salad bowl, I believe we're a bento box
Hmm.
because when we live in the same cities, we occupy different areas. And that's due to racist policies from the past, such as redlining. So Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, like there's a line in there. I have a dream that little black boys and little black girls could hold hands with little white boys and little white girls as brothers and sisters. He was alluding to the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which was passed the year after he was assassinated. His idea was for people to live amongst each other. And I believe we need to continue that legacy and we need to live amongst each other. We need to be exposed to different cultures. And when we're exposed to different cultures, guess what's going to happen, man? Sometimes we're going to say the wrong thing and put our foot in our mouth. Why do we need to be so committed to being right all the time? If I call you by the wrong pronoun or if I say the wrong thing, I first thing I do is I apologize for the impact of my actions before I even try to explain the intent because no one cares about your intent.
Right. It's not evident, and if they don't know you. Yeah, my father is from Italy, and, in the Italian culture, when you meet family or, you kiss, you always kiss twice, each side, and I found out recently kissing once is, actually, it's insulting, and the reason is because Jesus was betrayed by a one kiss. So,
Oh,
so that's where they draw that connection. So once you learn that, you understand and you move on.
yeah.
And it makes
Yeah, I
very
love
logical
that.
sense. Yeah, it makes very logical sense to them. But yeah, don't kiss an Italian or generally any Southern European once. It's an insult. Twice or three times is more
Oh,
acceptable. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Here's another one. I was in Azerbaijan, and a guy gave me he hooked me up with a ride. So he got his friend to give me a ride, so I didn't have to take a cab, so I'd be safer. And as a thank you, I like shook his hand and I slipped him a few manats, a
Nice.
few of their money, of their dollars or currency, and he waited around for me in the hotel the whole day
Oh, no.
to give me the money back and tell me how rude I am.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Yeah,
That's not what we do
I
there.
yeah, and because in their culture they don't take handouts. There's no welfare. Like a
Right.
man works, he doesn't take any handouts. And what I did was not only did I like try to emasculate him, I basically said like, "You're a peasant. Take some of the scraps to your peasant family." Like,
Wow.
and I wouldn't. And of course, that's not the way I interpreted it. Like, that wasn't my intent. I didn't mean to disrespect him, but of course I did, and I apologized for my actions. He's like, so it's okay. Like we ended up having a talk about it, and he told me like to go back and tell your teammates. Uh, and I think that part is so cool, being exposed to different cultures and like messing up and learning something.
Mm.
Uh, um, yeah,
Very,
it's
very interesting.
different ways people interpret things, and in Japanese culture, slurping your noodles so the chef can hear, lets the chef know that you're appreciating the
Very
meal.
common, yes.
Yeah,
And here it would be you're unruly, yeah, yeah. Amazing. Absolutely
yeah,
amazing. And then we talk, you speak often, about diversity and inclusion, that, we need to bring all this together. There's still diversity, but we still need to include everybody.
yeah, yeah. I think even the fact that representation matters. I remember, I don't know if you ever watched like uh, Real World or Road Rules back in the day.
I
Like
remember, yeah.
every one of those shows, like I remember they would always have like one black one black person,
Yeah,
one other person of colorish, and a gay person.
right.
And a lot of times the gay person was a black person.
Mm.
And I remember always seeing that pattern in every show, every reality show. And now I'm starting to see television shows with leading black roles or commercials with people who look like me.
Mm.
And I think that is so cool that everyone's being included now, and not just in like a we're checking a box way, because you can see it.
It's definitely getting better, but like we said earlier, there's still much room for improvement.
Oh yes, yes.
And how do we stop the cycle? How do we get better?
Uh, I believe we get better through exposure.
Mm.
That's the only way we get better, is through actually learning about one another and actually integrating with one another. Because the bento box analogy that I give, uh, like there's chocolate, there's chocolates on one side, there's pretzels on the other side. And if you're the pretzel people and you hang out with pretzel people, you go to work with pretzel people, you have lunch with pretzel people, like chocolate people, they're all the way over there. They're on that side of the bento box. Like you don't have anything against them, but you don't know them, so you make your assumptions.
Mm.
And then the chocolate people, they go to work, they hang out, they do everything with chocolate people. They don't know anything about the pretzel people, so they make assumptions.
Mm.
And when we make assumptions about one another, they're not based off of anything. But I think the cure to that is when there's enough chocolate covered pretzels running around and we realize we're not all that different. And I think seeing different people seeing people be with different people, and seeing people being so accepting of one another, uh, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I will add the fact that media, television, everything wants you to see all the negative.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who are there are a lot of allies. There are a lot of people who've been united in these last couple years that we don't really get to see those stories. So there's a lot of good going on in the world, but of course there is always room for improvement.
Yes, absolutely. And I think conversations like we're having, and having people hear about it and how we can use discipline to help and open up and understand how different cultures are where tipping isn't acceptable and kissing once isn't, and just how we can really look at things and change things is so important. Um, how has veganism changed your life, and do you recommend it?
Uh, Again, I'm not a doctor,
Mm,
but I do recommend it. For me, the thing I would recommend above anything is doing the. I did the. It's called the Engine to 28-day challenge. I lost a bet back in 2012, and I had to do this for 28 days. And it was like for the first 10 days, it was terrible because before this, I was eating my go to order at McDonald's was 3 McChickens, no mustard, no pickles, extra onions, extra ketchup, and
whoa.
3 McChickens with cheese. That was like what I would just eat on my way home from the gym.
Wow.
And then I went from that to having to be like this plant based vegan. So, like, it was an extreme change immediately. I was gassy for like the first 10 days. It
Right,
was
right,
terrible. But
right.
after it takes 22 days for your taste buds to adjust. So, 3 weeks into it, the food actually started to taste good. And this was a bad year in my life, and I was going through. I was real depressed at the time. I had gained a lot of weight, and the diet also entails sobriety. So not only was I eating healthy, I was sober. I was losing weight, and I started to feel positive again. And I believe being that process of becoming vegan is what saved my life.
Hmm. Wow. And you've been that's 20, so it's been 9 years or just, almost 10, yeah, and you're
Yeah.
still there and you love it.
Yeah, and what it did for me is it limited fast food for me.
Mm,
So I'm the type of person, if I could swing by McDonald's, I won't do it all the time. I'll just go just this one time today, just one time today, just not all of them, just today. And I would do that 6 times a week.
mm,
But now, if I'm in a pinch and I need a snack, I go to Chipotle. That's not that bad.
I see.
But now, if I go out, I make sure I bring food with me, and it saves me so much money, and it's so much healthier.
I just, I just can't help but wonder, given the last pandemic, how we would have, as a nation, as a world, as a country, handled it differently if we had this kind of discipline. I mean, just eating better. It was a perfect time for the government to say, let's get healthy, let's start walking, let's start looking at nutritional outlets instead of obesity. Is at like 75%, Cam? Something crazy?
Hey, Joe, question. Uh, Question for you.
Yes.
How do you make that a a statement without shaming and blaming
Right.
all of the obese people
Right.
who are going through their own personal turmoils, and they lean on food as their drug? And I say that not to shame people. That was the person
Me
I
too.
was. I
Me
still
too.
have a
Me
bad
too.
relationship with food.
Me too.
So how do you tell all those people, do you give them compassion or discipline? That's a good
Mm. We come back to that.
yeah.
Yeah, because I still feel there's the 340-pound person inside me trying to get out. Every once in a while, I feel that, Cam, and I see that extra slice of pizza, or I see, like you say, fast food, high caloric, high fat food is just so available and so inexpensive, that it's hard to avoid. You've got to be disciplined. But you're right. No politician's going to touch it because their constituency is 75% obese. So how do how do you approach that? It's very, very touchy.
I think the only way you could approach it is with a culture change.
Mm,
You would have to mandate schools to teach actual food health education and not what the FDA approves, because the
mhm.
FDA approves some shady stuff. Uh, on even just the food side of it. I
Wow.
know there's a lot of stuff behind on the other side, but even speaking about the food, they allow you to print anything you want on a label as long as the back little square, that label is correct.
Hmm.
Like they there's a lot of miseducation. Like the average American doesn't know how to read a serving size. Like read the nutritional facts.
Huge.
A lot of people in America live in food deserts. They don't even have access to good food. Like they don't know what kale is.
Mm.
So I think exposure to quality food and education of what is actually good food, because the whole idea of that we're still pimping the whole milk bill strong bones nonsense,
Mm.
and people genuinely are concerned for my protein intake when they find out I'm vegan. I had a lady, an obese lady, smoking a cigarette at a bar telling me about amino acids. Here's the thing, Joe. I don't know about amino acids, and I'm sure she doesn't either.
Right.
But if we had the proper education, we'd be able to mitigate this problem. We probably won't be able to do anything for the older generations, but the younger generations coming up, if the only thing you know is healthy, then unhealthy seems kind of off putting to you.
Right.
Because, like, even right now, like back in the day, what was your go to, Joe? What was your unhealthy go to? What was your
Yeah.
dirty pleasure?
Yeah. I guess just pizza and fast food. I mean, like I said, my father was Italian, but we'd eat pasta, but the portions would not be big. That's a big misconception now. You see these big, big
Oh,
bowls of just the handful is all you need with some good sauce. Yeah.
oh, and when I went to Italy, that was the weirdest thing for me because,
Yes.
first of all, they would bring you a little bit of food, like a
Yeah.
little bit of food,
Right.
and then you just have to sit there for like 30 minutes and then look at people, and then they bring you a little bit more food, just a little bigger. Then you wait for another 45 minutes, and then they bring you a decoration of what should be on an American cupcake. And that is your dessert. It's like a fistful of food
Yeah. Yeah.
over the span of 2 hours.
Yeah.
But then I realized Italians, they value their family.
Yes. Yeah.
Dinner's not a time to stuff your mouth. It's a
No.
time to eat a little bit and speak with
And
the ones you
talk.
love
That's right.
and talk. And I love that about the Italian culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, if I'm not Italian, I didn't know that, but I got exposed to Italian culture. And now when I have a family, now my girl and I, we eat at a dinner table
Right.
every night,
Right.
7 nights a week, unless like the Chiefs play at night, then we'll eat during the game. But
Sure.
we eat at the dinner table because I saw that in the Italian culture,
Mm.
and I that's me appreciating Italian culture,
Mm.
not appropriating it.
Right.
Because there's a difference. If I'm
Big
wearing a big fake Italian mustache
right.
and I'm doing a Mario accent, that's different.
Right.
But those are the subtle differences of appreciation and appropriation. But if I wasn't exposed to Italian culture, Joe, I wouldn't have known how amazing it is to eat dinner for a long time. As
Yeah,
simple as that is.
yeah, they eat late and they eat, but yeah, nobody's overweight. I shouldn't say nobody, but very few. It's not like here at all. And they walk everywhere, which we don't do unless you're in New York City. But yeah, generally people just drive everywhere. But yeah, so you were asking me the bad food would be the fast food and that's so available. So we're hoping that this younger generation doesn't do that as much and those good habits move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And you crave what you're addicted to.
Mm,
So if it takes 3 weeks for your taste buds to adjust, suffer for those 3 weeks,
that's right.
and then they get addicted to something new, and then stay disciplined to that addiction. Like right now, I can have snacks and well, because I live like this, I don't have snacks in my cupboard, like unhealthy snacks. But if I had unhealthy snacks in there, I wouldn't really be tempted because I don't crave it.
Mm,
It's actually more off-putting than anything.
right.
Like there's this vegan pizza place because I've been eating super clean probably for the last 8 months. There's this it's a Toppers. It's not even a vegan place, but they make a vegan special pizza, and it's like this uh, this Tuscan white cheese pizza, and it's fluffy, and there's cheese in the crust. And I ate it like a year ago, and I felt fat for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
I felt like it. I I eating it, by the way, oh, such a great
I
experience.
see.
So, oh, it was, that is a, so, for being like a 14.99 pizza, amazing. But the way it made me feel,
Mm,
the way it made me feel, bro, it's not worth it. I drove by the other day because it's right next to Chipotle, and I had to stop off, and I was like, I'll go to Chipotle because
mm.
I don't want to feel like this for the next. And I'm exaggerating. I felt bad for 2 or 3 days,
Right. I understand.
but I'm addicted to feeling healthy.
Right.
Not worth it to me.
Yeah, not worth it. I do, intermittent fasting now. Do you eat 3 times a day, 4 times? How do
Uh, I actually I started December 4th of last year. December 2nd, I was on a phone call with this vegan professor from Minnesota and this vegan dietitian, and we were just talking about just doing Veg Fest because we usually do health festivals, and we're just catching up. And the guy mentioned, he's like, "Yeah, I lost all this weight by doing intermittent fasting," and I heard about intermittent fasting, and the thing I don't like is I hate when people are like, "Oh, you're vegan. Tell me all about it. What should I eat?" And I'm like, I tell them everything, and I give them recipes and lists, and then they don't even try any of it out.
Ah,
And I'm like, I'm just wasting my time. So I don't like to ask people many questions. So you like this intermittent fasting thing? He's like, yeah, it completely changed my life. And I was like, all right. And I got off the phone with him, and I said, tomorrow morning I'm starting intermittent fasting. I will eat from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's it. And then I woke up the next day and ate first thing in the morning out of habit. I was like, all right, tomorrow. So December 4th, I started. And and I realized the first thing was when I would eat, and so in the morning I'd wake up, I'd come to work, and I work in my office, and I'd walk out to the fridge the first day, and I open the fridge, and then I close the fridge to see the clock on the microwave, and I'm like 8:13, okay, close it back, and I go back to my office, and then unconsciously I snap myself out of it, and I'm opening the fridge again. Has this ever
wow.
happened to you? And I look
Yes.
over, I'm like, it's 9:17, and I realize like 5 or 6 times I would open the fridge every morning just out of pure habit and have to close it.
You're not
And I realized
necessarily
the clock.
hungry, it's just a habit.
No, and I'm the type. It's me and my girl who live here. So if whatever, I would eat a handful of whatever. If it's pasta, I'll be honest with you. I'll grab a few noodles with my hand and
Right. Yeah,
just
sure.
and I realized I do that 6 or 7 times a day before noon, and then I would eat at 12:01. I was eating every day, and then
Mm,
by the third month, it would be like 1:17. I was like, oh, I forgot to eat.
right.
And then I realized I only eat out of habit. And I don't even know when I'm hungry anymore because I always eat before I ever got hungry. And now sometimes I look up and I'm like, oh, it's 2 p.m. and I didn't eat. And I realize if I work out, oh, I'm hungry a lot earlier.
Mm,
And now I'm able to understand mentally when my stomach wants food or when it's just my greedy habits because I'm a greedy guy. I'll just snack all day, but I don't need that. So the intermittent fasting did that for me. So being vegan limited my options, and then now there's so many great vegan junk food. It makes it so hard to
right.
do that.
I
But
see that.
intermittent fasting made me learn how to read my body.
Did the same thing for me. It was in the springtime and, I got a checkup and my doctor's very candid. I'm from the Northeast, so she's got a little bit of an attitude and I weighed myself and, she looks at my weight and she says, "Hey, Joe, did your Peloton break?" You know, so I said,
Nothing
"Okay."
passive about that
No,
Northeast
no,
aggression.
no, nothing at all. I said, "Okay, okay." So I just looked into it, and it's amazing. Like you said, I eat from, 11 or 12 to about 5 or 6, and that's it. And I go to sleep. I play golf in the morning, and people are like, "You didn't eat anything for, 10 hours? Aren't you tired?" No, I'm not. No, I've had water. I have never had a cup of coffee my whole life. So I no calories at
Yeah.
all. And you don't need it. Your body doesn't need it.
No, you think you do.
Yeah.
You think about, and America's great and all that, but think about what America is. We're like a giant capitalistic society, and we're marketing.
Mm,
We're marketed that we need to drink more water. No, not from water fountains, from Dasani. You need
Right.
to Gatorade. You need to
Yeah.
hydrate.
Yeah.
You need to eat this. You need to drink that. Everyone who's telling you need protein is actually selling you protein. The
Wow.
government was telling you milk builds strong bones. They're subsidizing the farmers.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually strip away all the layers, you realize we're creatures of habit. And if we're just conscious of where we're getting our habits from, and we can just change that up, we can live such better, healthier lives.
So true. So true. So you do a little comic work now.
I used to. I haven't performed in years. COVID.
And what brought you
Yeah.
there?
Uh, Actually, I while I was boxing, and I started doing stand up, and I
Hmm.
enjoyed doing stand up. I got to perform. I did the Laugh Factor a few times,
Awesome.
different ones, and uh, done Funny Bones. I performed all over, and that was so cool. But I didn't make any money,
Mm,
and I was like, I can't continue. I can't continue doing this while training for the Olympics. And I realized I was doing a lot of youth speaking at the time, and I was like, well, I guess I can just write cleaner jokes and practice them on students.
right.
So I just started integrating jokes into my speeches, and it's a mix of both now. So I'm able to do stand up, which is my passion. I love stand up, but also be able to make a decent living, because when when the only thing you get is your bar tab paid and you don't drink, it doesn't really help.
Wow, you're a true extrovert, aren't you? I mean, you wanted to be the best in boxing. You like to public speak. I mean, you are not bashful, and you're out there. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm I'm an obsessive go getter.
Mm,
If there's some, that's my hobby, is choosing one thing and just going at it 100%.
mm.
uh, to the point where when they say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Other than Waffle House for about 10 months, I've never had a job,
Oh.
because it's been boxing and speak, two things I love. And I'm so passionate about it.
And your main focus now, is it public speaking?
It is. It is. Stepping away from boxing. It. Of course, I've never wanted to be a boxer. That was never what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Right.
I allowed boxing to be a platform for me to be able to reach my goals and my dreams. And my goal when I first started boxing, what my goal in the ring was to be a good role model and have a TV show. Uh, and I think being a speaker is, I made this goal in 2008. So I didn't know podcasts, and I didn't even know what an influencer is. So technically, if
Mm,
you think an influencer is a TV show, I'm living my dream, man.
right.
I'm living my dream. I get paid to do what I use. So I got into speaking by accident. I was just speaking at schools and talking about what bullying, how I was bullied, and what boxing did for me. And after doing it for a few years, someone was like, "What do you charge?" And I was like, "You can't make money doing that." And they're like, "Yeah, you can."
Mm.
And then I looked into it, and now I'm getting paid for doing literally what I was doing for free. I'm so grateful for life, and I'm just so happy all the time.
Yeah, and your enthusiasm is just so magnetic, and it's warm and welcoming, Cam. And so
Thanks, man.
so companies, corporations hire you. Who are your target audience in your speaking?
Uh, Anyone looking for to build resilience. So I speak
Mm,
on creating a championship mindset through resilience, as well as diversity training. So if you work with people of different cultures, or if you work for or with people of different cultures, which is pretty much everyone. I've been doing a lot of work recently with school districts. 79% of educators are white females. Our students aren't. So
mm.
I help work with educators to help create better multicultural educators as well.
Incredible, Cam. So incredible. Thank you so much for your time today, Cam. Awesome. Now, how can we get in touch with you?
You can find me on all social media platforms, Cam F Awesome, because I'm not famous or anything, and no one wants to take that name. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I haven't. I think I made one TikTok, so maybe don't check the TikTok. Save your time. Uh, not very active there, but Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook,
And of
and
course,
LinkedIn.
your website, camfawesome.com.
Yes, and camfawesome.com.
Yeah, Cam, thank you so much for your time today. Absolute delight. You've motivated me. I'm going to look into veganism. I really am. And thank you so much for your time. And please enjoy the rest of your day. I hope one day, if I get out to Kansas City, we have a juice together and maybe watch a Chiefs game.
Oh, I would love that. And on your road to veganism, I will say I believe in progress over perfection.
Ah, yeah, not overnight. Progress over perfection. Very good.
Progress over perfection.
Cam, thank you so much. You be well. Have a great day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Bye now. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.